Good afternoon, everyone. It's tea time again, and I'm going to sit down and have a cup of tea and talk to you about just a couple of things. It'll be a short video today, I think. I went out and I picked all of my cherries off of my cherry tree after the hurricane storm that we had. Guess how many I got? Look at all these cherries. Yeah, look at all that. Yeah, these are going to be really, really nice. So what you do is, because I did just rinse them again, I'll put my towel back down here and show you. I get a little Ziploc bag because these I'm going to freeze. And so I marked it what it was, my cherries, because they are my cherries off my tree. That tells me, I didn't buy them or anything. These are my cherries. And the date. So you take a cherry, you get a cherry pitter. You put it in, you snap it down. What does that do? That takes the pit right out of that cherry. And then you just put the cherry in your sack. Now, I'm going to sit here and do all of these this afternoon. And while I do that, I'm going to have my cup of tea. I brought out another one of my teapots. This is the Hummingbird and Lilies teapot that also has the matching cup, both. And you may have seen these over the years. I don't know. So I'm going to have that. And this morning is Wednesday. It's afternoon now. But this morning, when I did all this, I was tuning in. I was sitting right here and starting to pit my cherries. I got my iPad out. I turned on the Lori Vallow Daybell trial because this is the last day, really. I knew yesterday by watching other things that the state was going to wrap it up. Yeah, they were going to rest today. They only had the one witness. So let me go over a couple of things on this. And then I will be doing my errands. I have to go to the grocery store and Walmart, always. And I have some office paperwork I need to get done. Yeah. So, and if anybody wants to know where this little teapot, and it's adorable, it really is, because I love hummingbirds, and I really like this one. I don't know if you can see it that close. There it is right there. This is a telefloral teapot that, again, I think I found it at a grocery store many, many years ago in the floral section, that it had some plant or flowers or whatever in it, and I liked it. So I got the teapot and then got the teacup and saucer later, when I could afford it. Okay, so Monday was day 3 on this trial. And gosh, people, I've had nice comments, really, from people still writing in to tell me an email or whatever on thanks for your recap, your updates on this, Diane, because I don't have time to watch it. Hang on. Somehow I forgot to unplug the landline. Okay, Monday was day 3 of this trial. Lori, she never ceases to amaze all of us, really. I took some more notes on it. We're still talking about the tinting on the Jeep with the first officer that testifies. Judge ordered 40 minutes in there that he put in a motion to order that Lori had to show up to court. She couldn't play sick. She couldn't do all these things, and it was an order for her to show up to court by force if necessary. Well, she didn't like that. Then yesterday, she came in wearing navy blue. She finishes her cross-examination with this Detective Pillar, which was long. And really, this week, folks, if you were tuning in, I'm going to pause that a minute because they are already back, and I want to hear the last part of it, and then I'll let you know. Okay, I am back after watching the rest of today, which is day 5, on this Lori Vallow Daybell trial. Wow. In fact, I'm going to pour me another cup of tea to get through this conversation. Yeah. I went down to Sam's Club before I start my little conversation about her. Went down to Sam's Club and I got, only because I saw this on the Nate Eaton, which is the East Idaho News guy, the reporter that I watch quite often. And he's been following this trial along. He mentioned these and I thought, ooh, I like that. I think I'm going to go try that. So they're called orange flavored cranberry cookie thins. They come in a box like this. And they look like this. Just a little cookie, flat, but they have the best taste. They really do. Now, nothing compares to, of course, homemade. But if you just want a little snack and you go to Sam's Club, you have a membership or whatever, or you know somebody that does, send them in there to get the orange cranberry thin cookies. You won't regret that. You won't, with a nice cup of hot tea. All right, so I left off before it started again on the trial, that it was going over day 4 of, they were still doing testimony on the color of that Jeep. DNA inside the Jeep was, yes, Alex Cox, of course. A lot was said about Melanie Burdell. And at the time, yesterday, it just kind of made you feel, is the jury gonna think that Melanie planned all this and not Lori? You have to keep with the story. Just like a good movie, just like a book you read. Never judge a book by its cover. Wait till the end of the story. Okay. Lori is making out, as of yesterday, she made out that the police, were doing a sloppy job of their investigation. And she couldn't understand why they don't still have the glass, so that her investigators, could check all of that. There were a lot of sidebars, as Lori just can't seem to shut her mouth. Certain questions that, again, the judge or the prosecutor would say is going to open the door if you go down this avenue of thinking you're this sweet person. It's going to open the door to us now telling everybody about your 4 convictions. Okay, what we'd all been waiting for, holding our breath for and waiting for, they finally did yesterday, of showing the video footage of the storage locker up there in Rexburg, Idaho, showing Lori, Alex, putting that tire in the storage locker, putting the back seat of that Jeep storage locker. Then they go back, her and Lori and her husband, Chad Daybell, and they get the tire back out and the seat back out. I mean, even though the storage locker, the row to it, you've got storage units on both sides and it's indoors. It's all the way to the end where the door is. Too bad they didn't have a security camera right at that back door where they could see everything. But it was a clear shot and you could see what was going on. That really did, to me, that was one nail in the coffin. It really was. That she was a part of all of this. Her Jeep wasn't really her Jeep, but it was. The registration actually was entirely her daughter's name, but they couldn't say that during court either. We're not going to bring up the kids. We're not going to bring up Charles Vallow, anything. When they want to refer back into the past of what happened in 2019, when all this kind of started, they call it an incident. And that's all they could go with. Okay, so day 5 arrives, finally. We're here on Wednesday. But before the court even starts, I find out, through all these other videos and sources that come up, that Lori had put in motion after motion of these motions that she likes to do. So to briefly explain it, she's put down that she's upset about being ordered to go to court by the judge, even by force, Can't play sick. You're going to be there. Okay, she's upset about that. She feels that violation of HIPAA on her medical report. None of that happened. I clearly remember that day, and the judge just cut it off and stopped. He read what was in front of him from the sheriff's department of what they found, and really it was not anything for him to worry about, to close down court or quarantine or have everybody in the courtroom wear a mask, anything. No. But he did seal it. In other words, that it would go to the HIPAA and nobody would know what she kind of had, thought she had. She's mad that Judge Beresky still won't recuse himself. Let's see, what did I write down here? I had to write so fast. Oh, that he offered ibuprofen. She did refuse that. And then he allowed her to have Tylenol on her person for her headaches that she had. She claimed she was deprived of water. Now, this one cracked me up. And I'm sure it will you if you have been watching all of these days go along, because right at her desk, seem to be going hoarse tonight. Right at her desk on the right-hand side, there's always been 2 bottles of water. And she goes through them. She does. She was deprived of water, though. And she thinks the judge has explosive behavior. She fears him. She's afraid of the judge. Okay, and there was another motion of going back, the judge, so she wanted Judge Beresky to be recused. Step down, get out of the way. I don't want you, I want a new judge. That had to go to an appellate judge. Judge Green, I guess the name was. No, denied. Then she did it again to another judge. No, denied. So denied, denied, denied. You're not going to get a new judge, you know. And all of this, I think, has been denied. Okay. She claims on June 7th that she had a virus and a bacterial infection, that she was dehydrated and was refused the water. She came in with a mask in her hand yesterday. She never put it on. And then for about 2 days that I can remember now, she's had this little cough. It's a convenient cough. What do I mean by that? She only seems to cough when the prosecutor, this Triana K, gets up and starts talking to a witness. Then Lori decides to cough. Yeah. Okay, behind the scenes, I listened to a gal that, and I had read this someplace else. I didn't know the final particulars of it, but Lori's father, his name is Barry Cox. Well, I guess you could say the statement like father, like daughter. Father goes to prison for defrauding the IRS. He gets out of prison, and what does he do? He writes a book. He's right and everyone else is wrong. You know those people? I do. I know people like that. Okay, so there's that word entitled again. You know, they think they're entitled to this and they're entitled to that. I did a video on that word entitlement. I really did. All right, so more from Lori. Again, those motions were denied by all those judges. You're not going to get a new judge. We're into day 5 now. Now she comes to court, and all of a sudden, she doesn't look sick to me at all. Her hair is styled really nice today. She has on better makeup. She's a lot older in the face now than she was on the Charles Vallow trial. She looked young and perky during those days. Not now. So she's wearing black again with this bright purple blouse that she likes. What I noticed of the body language of what she was doing, she likes to sway back and forth in her chair. It doesn't rock up and down like this, but it moves side to side. She likes to sway back and forth. Okay, so they only had one witness today that they called up. And this was an FBI special agent, Dallas. And he is the person that they wouldn't show his face because he goes undercover a lot, so you weren't going to see his face. Seemed like a younger man that did talk about the track phone, cell phones, their locations from Google, because they have these Verizon accounts, from September into October of 2019. There were 3 different accounts. Gmail accounts with Alex Cox. Lori keeps swirling in her chair. When she's bored, she looks bored to death. She really does. And he contributes these pings, as they're called, different things of their locations, to the 3 residents up there in Rexburg, Idaho. Lori lived in a townhouse, apartment, whatever you want to call it. Alex lived right next door, and I guess a couple of doors down, Melanie, her niece, she lived there. Okay, and so he was trying to say about the storage locker, of when the location of that came into play on these phones, burner phones, okay? I learned something new today. As far as the hardware of the phone, the difference on everybody's phone that you have, it's called a MEID number, which is like a VIN number to your cell phone. Yeah, did you know that? I didn't. Okay, so all of those phones have this MEID number. Okay, lots of calls. Lori, Alex, Chad, and Melanie. She's all in that too. And he was trying to say where the phone's device location, if the device is turned on, well, that's where they know these phones are, of the location. Apparently, the Google account, it was turned on the track phone and the other phones. Okay? On these towers. So Alex's phone shows him at Brandon's house, of course. Alex calls Chad Daybell when he's over there at Brandon's. An outgoing call went to Melanie for 35 minutes. Alex and Melanie. 2 calls incoming from Chad. Incoming call again from Chad. 30 minutes. Yeah. Phone's back up in Idaho. Up at the storage locker. Goes to Lori and Alex's apartment again. The state had no more questions after 1 hour of interviewing this FBI agent. Then it's Lori's turn to ask the FBI questions. And it's mind-boggling when she gets up there and kind of repeats herself or doesn't know really where she's going with the question. The device tags from Google, each phone has a tag. The man was trying to explain phone 1, phone 2, phone 3. Shows up whether the phone is an iPad or a computer. They can see which device is showing a location. Okay. What I noticed again while she was doing her cross-examination of this FBI agent, once in a while they would show the judge. They don't show him that often, but they do. And yesterday he was like this, or he was like this, like here we go again, or, now I've got to answer that question. Today he looked tired to me. He really did. I think he is tired. We all are tired. After 5 days of listening to all this, we're tired. Okay. Lori tries to make the jury think anyone could be using a track phone, not just Alex or Lori. She asked what meters are, and he said it's not meters, it's degrees. And the FBI special agent clarifies everything he had already said to the prosecutor. he has to clarify everything now to Lori because she just doesn't, goes right over her head. Okay. Trina K is the prosecutor. She looked tired today also. She gets the last questions with the FBI special agent, and she balances things out. She clarifies everything. Tracking of the cell phone, the towers, the location of the phones, between Alex and Lori, all that. And then when she said she had no more questions for this particular witness, then she just looked at the judge and says, "Judge, the state rests." Boom, right there. It's over. She's done. When she says that, we're done. We're not going to call any more witnesses in. I'm done with this case. I've wrapped it up. Now all I have to do is do my closing statement. Yeah. Okay. Judge says we're going to go for recess of the lunch break, back at 1:20. That's why I stop, do some of my errands, get some things done. I come back, and Judge goes over the instructions with Lori and Trina K. They go over everything. If there's any little glitch in there, something that he wants to take out or whatever, that's the time to do that before he gives the instructions to the jury. Lori wants to object to Rule 20 motion, and Lori does say that she rests her case. She's done. She's not going to testify. She has no witnesses. Okay. So now we go into the closing arguments. But right before that, Lori, on the Rule 20, she reads what that rule is. And it has to do with she doesn't want to be seen on the video. The phone, emails, Google search, she didn't agree with Alex on first degree. And it was just kind of short and sweet. Trina comes back with, there is substantial evidence. We're going forward. And the judge denies Lori on the Rule 20. And judge makes Lori and everyone else in that courtroom aware of why he denied Rule 20. Okay. They bring back the jury in. Lori has her chance then to tell out loud to everybody in the courtroom and the jury that she does rest. Okay. She still coughs a lot right then. So the defense rests, she rests. The judge hands the jury instructions to the jury, and he goes ahead and reads them out loud. And they're quite lengthy, page after page, but he has to make the jury understand every line of when they leave that courtroom and go into, the jury room. They have to know what the paperwork says of what they're looking for ahead. So all 12 jurors must agree, he says. Closing statement, of course, comes from Trina K., who goes first. And again, I will say that they finally give kind of a close-up of her. She finally turns around to what's called the gallery, and they give kind of a close-up of her face a little bit better. I don't know how old this woman is. I'm assuming in her 50s. No, don't quote me on that. I have no idea. She looked tired, really. She looked like, I've had it with this case, Yeah, this is my last day, and I'm tired of all this nonsense, in other words. Okay. So she starts out with her closing statement as, who would want to kill you? And she's looking right at the jury, and Officer Rob and Detective Pillar, they ask those questions, who would want to kill you, to Brendan Bordeaux. Logical answer, don't you think? Or question, logical on that. When she refers to Lori and Alex on anything that goes back in time, they have to word it in July 2019, an incident occurred. Well, yeah, it was quite an incident. Alex shot and killed Lori Vallow's husband, Charles Vallow. Yeah. The Texas Jeep, she indicates Lori lived in Texas. Brandon saw the Jeep, he saw the rifle, he heard the shot. The pre-planning was in Idaho. So conspiracy to commit first-degree murder. Those are the charges. Trina goes over every detail. She goes back and shows the Jeep pictures. She goes back and shows the video, parts of it, of the video from the storage locker. Things were on the overhead projector board, for everybody in the courtroom to see as a reminder in their brain. Don't forget this that you just saw yesterday. Lori's sitting there motionless while Trina K is giving her closing arguments. She's actually got the disgusted look on her face and bored. She's not rocking. She's just sitting there, bored to death. Okay, what I did notice about her, because they zoomed in quite a bit on her today, on Lori, was that Lori's hair was to perfection today. She didn't have the little Shih Tzu dog hairstyle. Her makeup was all on nice. She looked nice today, but she doesn't act nice. And she's aging. Like I said, she does not, in her face, you can tell that she's put on some miles, in other words. Trina looked professional, as always. She's smart, and she's very detailed. She went over the timeline of everything. Then it was Lori's closing argument time. Wow. The first thing right out of the gate, she goes back in time of the other case that jury doesn't know about. And said that this was a family tragedy. Yeah. She has studied the law, she claims, and it will stay with her forever. The law part. Okay? There were 2 objections right off the bat as far as her character that Trina K did right now. I object. Lori claims that she's not angry. It's a complex issue. And I'm just writing down a few notes that I'm thinking, are you serious? And says that, she was not there. There was no agreement that her and Alex were going to do this. And, oh, by the way, she's crying. Just a few little soft little tears. Because when she first went up to the podium to speak, she had a Kleenex in her left hand. And I thought, oh, here we go. Here comes the tears. Yeah. She claims she loved her brother Alex. Objection. She claims she loved Melanie. Objection. And that they weren't there, anymore. As far as Alex, he's not here anymore. And Trina says she wanted to strike everything that was just said from Lori. But she still tries to finish her sentence. Dumb smart, one of those people. I'm going to finish this sentence even though you're interrupting me with an objection. But the jury's going to hear the whole sentence. Yeah. Tragedies in our lives. Brother's not here. The devastation this family has gone through. And she ends with, it's time for healing. Oh my gosh. I could not even imagine the family members. Charles Vallow's sister Kay Woodcock that's sitting right behind Brandon Bordeaux. I can't even imagine her older son, Colby Ryan. I didn't see him in the courtroom. I don't know if he was there. I'm sure he watches all this to, later come on his podcast and talk. I'm sure he's shaking his head and thinking the same thing. Time for healing? They're still trying to heal 6 years later. And it's not going away, mainly because of all these trials. So Trina comes back on Lori after that, time for healing. She gets to say another thing. Okay. She comes back on her. Lori has multiple investigations. Melanie, multiple investigations. There's been a long time at planning what had happened with Brandon Bordeaux. Meddling in a marriage that was failing. Aided her niece during this marriage that was falling apart. And these 4 people all working together. Who are the 4 people? Lori, Alex, Melanie, and Chad Daybell. Yeah. So, the jury leaves the courtroom. I don't even know, I wrote it down. I'd have to go back and listen to it one more time tonight. I'm not sure what the judge meant by, on notice, 20 minutes, stick around for verdict. And I'm thinking, do you know something we don't know here? Do you think in 20 minutes they're going to have a verdict? But I've been watching, I really have, and nothing's come yet. I really think the jury is still out. They probably want to sleep on it tonight. Lori did object to what's called this dangerous allegation. Argumentative. Lori objects to that. I don't know. I got done today with watching all this thinking, well, it's over now as far as it goes. Now we wait for the jury to come back and say either guilty or innocent. And I don't, if she's found guilty, which I'm going to go right along with everybody else, how can you not find her guilty? It's right there in front of you. And people like me that have been watching all along, it's like, oh my gosh, here we go again. When are we going to put a stop to this woman, you know? So if they come back with it guilty, then this same judge that did the Charles Fallow case, he will sentence her for that case, and then he'll sentence her for this case. And then I don't think we're going to see her until probably the day that he does sentence her, and I don't know when that's going to be, whether they wait a few weeks, a month, but I don't know. Have to find that information out. I don't know. I hope you've been following it right along with me. I hope today you were kind of like me on a few things, that now you're looking at a trial in a different way. You're looking at the people that are there of, okay, I don't know this woman. I don't know the family. You know, I've watched all these trials now, and it's like, you have got something going on up here that's not right. Husband talking about it last night when he got home late, and he says, what do you think makes somebody do what she did, as far as, you know, killing the kids and eliminating Chad's wife and her husband and all that? He says, do you think it still was just all over money? I said, no, I don't. I said, Lori and Charles Fallow had money. I don't think they were multimillionaires, but they had money. And if you go back to the stories on all of that, somebody doesn't drop $50,000. This was in an interview with Charles's sister. You don't drop $50,000 on this food storage for the Mormon, the supplies of what they like to do for 6 months a year on their food storage, if you don't have money. She took out $50,000 to go to Hawaii. They had money. I don't think the $1 million was motive enough to kill him. She wanted him out of the way. She didn't like him, and even said in the police interview, I don't even like him. I think the $1 million was a little cushion, a little pad for her and her lover, Chad Daybell, and soon-to-be husband, for them to live on. Yeah. Now, how she went from getting enticed by a man. You know, she was, okay, call it the change of life, you know, and everybody does weird things when they go through the change. Some people buy a sports car. Some people get tattoos. Some people just, they go off and have an affair, whatever. She went and had an affair, all right. But then something changed. She met a man that convinced her, this cult religion, of his beliefs. And she was just mesmerized by it. It was almost like magnet, okay? But how he convinced her, or in her mind, how she came to get to the point of, this point up here of eliminating people was okay. Killing them, getting rid of them off this planet was okay. I don't have the answer to that. And then to go from the nice lifestyle that she had, beautiful home she lived in, nice cars she drove, money, you know, she looked good back then, everything. She could go anywhere and do anything she wanted to do. And now she's sitting in, well, in Idaho, it's a prison. Right now she's just in the jail in Chandler, Arizona, going through this trial. She'll go right back up there to Idaho to prison. And that's her life for the rest of her life. But she thinks she's going to get it appealed, and that one day her and Chad will be exonerated of all these charges, and they're just going to go and live in Hawaii on some beach and have a wonderful life. Where did it all go wrong? And the way the children were killed, and that's another, if you would have to go back to that trial, or whatever, you can pick up anything on YouTube, you know, and all these videos now. Just type in her name. It doesn't even have to be Lori Vallow. Just type in Lori Daybell and it all comes up. And so to read this of a person that just lost it in her brain. When it came up about the like father, like daughter, I thought, gosh, I know people like that. Yes, I do. I know them like that. Do they go and kill? Close. They could come to it. I'm not going to say they wouldn't. But the way they did it is just beyond anybody's thinking. It really does. So my take on it, my little opinion that means nothing. My little opinion on it is I do hope they come back with the guilty verdict tomorrow. Yes. I'll jump back on to this particular video. I'll probably be wearing something different. Of another top, something a lot cooler. Gosh, it was 94 degrees, I think, today. Saturday and Sunday, it's going to be 100 degrees. There's those triple digits that we're going to go into. It's hot where I live. It is. Anyway, I'll jump back on with the spoiler alert of whatever the verdict is. And I will, title verdict, but I won't say what it is. For those who want to watch me, I'm so pleased and proud that you do. And I'll tell you what the verdict is and maybe some of the comments or whatever of what people say after this. Sometimes the jurors like to talk to reporters. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they're just up to here, tired, exhausted, and just want to go home and put it out of their mind. They have their own lives, Lori thinks the whole world revolves around her. Well, we don't. We don't. I have completely stopped my life to go on with these videos. And now that it's come to a close, I'm just waiting for an answer. It's come to a close. Then I can get back to my everyday life of what I'm doing. But I'm going to stop my video now for this evening. I'll pick it back up when the verdict comes in. And like I said, I am so glad you tune in to watch me. I am going to get busy tomorrow morning and I'm going to pit all these cherries. I've got to get that done. And go buy these cookies. They're pretty good. They really are. So I'll catch you in just a little while of a few hours here when I find out what it is, guilty or not.